For 4,500 years, the real builders of the pyramids have been erased. For thousands of years, the world has stared at the pyramids of Egypt and pretended to understand them. Textbooks claim they were tombs. Tour guides say slaves dragged stones. Historians repeat what they were taught. But none of this answers a real question. Who truly built the pyramids? And why is their purpose still hidden beneath layers of silence? The story begins long before pharaohs even existed. Long before the word Egypt was ever spoken. To understand this, we must strip away the myths and look at the pyramids not as monuments, but as messages carved into stone. The Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned perfectly to cardinal directions, north-south, east-west, with an accuracy modern engineers struggle to match even with lasers. How did Bronze Age builders achieve this? No copper tools can cut granite with the precision found inside the king's chamber. No wooden sledges can transport 70-ton blocks from quarries miles away with millimeter accuracy. And no burial tomb in history contains ventilation shafts engineered to point to Orion and Sirius with astronomical precision. So why does the official story insist the pyramids were tombs when no mummy was ever found inside them? This is where the trail goes cold for mainstream historians, but grows blazing hot for those willing to question. Each stone is a page of a forgotten book. Each measurement is a formula. Each angle is a clue. The Great Pyramid encodes pi, phi, the speed of light, and even the dimensions of Earth, all in ratios carved into architecture more than 4,500 years old. But how could builders know the curvature of Earth centuries before Greece? How could they calculate astronomical constants without advanced instruments? Unless the builders were not learning. They were remembering. Ancient Egypt itself claimed knowledge was inherited from a forgotten age, an age ruled by beings called the Neteru, not gods, but enlightened rulers, teachers, engineers, the keepers of a lost science. And the pyramid, according to them, was not a tomb, it was a machine. A machine for what? Energy? Consciousness? The preservation of knowledge? As we descend deeper into history, something disturbing emerges. The earliest dynasties did not build pyramids. They inherited them. The sudden decline in pyramid quality over generations proves this. The oldest pyramids are perfect. The later ones collapse. Skills vanished over time. That only happens when a civilization attempts to copy technology it did not originally create. But that's not the biggest secret. The layout of the three Giza pyramids matches the three stars of Orion's belt, but aligned to how the sky looked in 10,500 BC, thousands of years before Egypt's first pharaoh. Why build a monument aligned to the sky that existed during an era when Egypt supposedly had no civilization? Unless Egypt was older, much older than we've been told. But why would that truth be hidden? Because rewriting the age of Egypt means rewriting the age of human civilization. It means accepting that an advanced global culture existed before the Ice Age, and that it perished in a catastrophe remembered in myths as the Great Flood. The pyramids, then, would be survivors of that lost epic, stone messages from a civilization wiped off the face of the earth. And if that is true, then the biggest cover-up in human history is not about who built the pyramids. It's about who wants us not to know. For centuries, historians insisted that Egyptian civilization began around 3000 BC, rising suddenly from primitive villages to cities, laws, agriculture, writing, and engineering, almost overnight. But civilizations do not appear overnight. They evolve layer by layer, generation by generation. Egypt, however, begins fully formed, with mathematics, astronomy, calendar systems, and architecture already advanced. This is the first clue that the story we've been taught is incomplete. Something existed before Egypt, something powerful enough to leave behind knowledge that early dynasties could only imitate. If we step back and analyze the earliest pyramids, a pattern emerges. The more ancient the structure, the more precise the engineering. The Great Pyramid, the oldest of them all, is mathematically flawless. Later pyramids, like the Bent Pyramid or the collapsed Midian Pyramid, show architectural mistakes, errors you expect from students, not masters. This alone suggests the true architects belong to a forgotten era. Egypt's earliest kings did not invent the pyramid. They inherited its blueprint from a lost civilization. But who were these architects? Egyptian legends speak of a golden age called Zep-Tepi, the first time when the gods walked the earth. But what if these gods were not supernatural beings, but survivors of a previous advanced society? Not celestial deities, but highly skilled engineers, astronomers, and scientists. They brought knowledge, rebuilt communities, and taught the foundations of a new civilization rising from the ashes of catastrophe. The greatest of these teachers was Imhotep, often credited as the architect of the first step pyramid. But Imhotep never claimed he invented anything. He openly stated he was restoring knowledge from a time before. He acted as a translator of the past, someone reviving ancient science rather than creating it. Inside the oldest texts, the Egyptians say their wisdom came from a group called the Shem-Tahor, the followers of Horus. According to tradition, they ruled Egypt thousands of years before the first pharaoh. They were astronomer priests, surveyors, healers, and master builders. Their reign, according to the ancient king list, stretches back into deep prehistory, long before the accepted start of civilization. But this creates a problem for modern historians. If the Shem-Tahor were real, then the pyramids may date back not 4,500 years, but 10,000 to 12,000 years to the end of the Ice Age. And history cannot accept this, because accepting it means this. Ancient humans knew more than we believe, and we, today, know far less than they did. Let's examine the engineering itself. The precision of the Great Pyramid is beyond anything found in later dynasties. The casing stones were cut so perfectly that a credit card could not fit between them. The base is leveled to within fractions of an inch, across a footprint large enough to hold 10 football fields. The internal passages are laser straight. This is not primitive work. This is the work of master architects with advanced knowledge. But here is where things become uncomfortable. The ancient builders appear to have used a surveying technique that requires an understanding of Earth's curvature, knowledge supposedly discovered thousands of years later. The pyramid's location also sits at the exact center of Earth's landmass. This implies intentional global mapping. How could a Bronze Age culture accomplish this? They couldn't, but a global civilization existing before the Ice Age could. A society wiped out by rising seas, earthquakes, and cosmic impacts might leave only fragments behind, fragments rediscovered later by Egypt's earliest kings. The pyramids could be the last surviving monuments of that lost world, preserved because stone lasts longer than memory. And this is where the cover-up begins. Accepting a pre-Egyptian advanced civilization will require rewriting every textbook, every timeline, every theory about human evolution and development. It would mean acknowledging that humans were capable of advanced science long before historians claim. It would mean admitting that we, in the modern age, are missing pieces of our own past. Universities resist this. Museums resist this. Governments resist this. Not because the truth is impossible, but because the truth is inconvenient. The pyramids were not an experiment of early Egypt. They were a legacy passed down from teachers older than recorded history, a legacy protected, guarded, and partially erased. And the hints left behind in stone continue to whisper, urging us to look deeper. If the architects before pharaohs really existed, then their fingerprints should be found not only in Egypt, but across the world. And that is exactly where the next chapter leads us. For generations, the pyramids of Egypt have been treated as an isolated marvel, unique, unmatched, and disconnected from the rest of the world. But when we widen our view beyond Egypt's borders, a strange and unsettling truth begins to emerge. Pyramids, megaliths, and precision stone structures appear on every continent, built by cultures who had no supposed contact with one another. And many of these structures share the same geometry, the same mathematical code, and the same astronomical alignment as the pyramids of Giza. This is not coincidence. This is a pattern, a global pattern. Let us begin thousands of miles away, deep in the Amazon rainforest. Beneath thick vegetation, LiDAR scanning revealed massive geometric structures, pyramids, earthworks, and complex cities, older than any known South American civilization. These structures share the exact cardinal orientation seen in Egypt. But how could two cultures, separated by oceans, choose the same alignment? Because they were following a system, a blueprint, a set of instructions inherited from a forgotten master culture. Travel west, and you reach Mexico, home to Teotihuacan, another pyramid complex perfectly aligned to celestial bodies. Its Pyramid of the Sun matches the base of the Great Pyramid almost exactly. This is not a simple architectural resemblance. The mathematics encoded in both structures, ratios, angles, and astronomical markers, are nearly identical. Continue further to Peru, and you meet the impossible stonework of Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, where stones weighing over 100 tons interlock so perfectly that not even a needle can slip between them. The angles, joints, and surfaces appear machined. Yet, according to official history, the builders had no metal tools. How can this be explained? Mainstream archaeologists say it's a coincidence. But how many coincidences does it take before coincidence becomes a pattern? Cross the ocean again, and you reach Turkey's Göbekli Tepe, older than Stonehenge and the pyramids by thousands of years. Perfect circles, megalithic pillars, astronomical alignments, advanced construction at a time when humans were supposedly hunter-gatherers with no agriculture. This alone shatters the timeline of human development. Then there are the mysteries of Baalbek in Lebanon. Monolithic stones weighing over 1,000 tons, carved and transported with a precision modern cranes can barely manage. Easter Island, with its Moai statues aligned to solstices and star paths. Angkor Wat, aligned to Draco and the Milky Way. And in China, pyramid complexes older than recorded dynasties, hidden from the public for decades. Everywhere we look, the same fingerprints appear. Precise geometry, celestial alignment, cyclopean stonework, global mapping knowledge, cultural myths describing ancient sky teachers. This is not the work of isolated civilizations. This is a legacy of a single unified knowledge system spread across the globe before the Ice Age ended. But who was spreading this knowledge? Ancient cultures all speak of a time when godlike teachers arrived after a world-ending catastrophe. The Egyptians called them the Neteru and the followers of Horus. The Sumerians called them the Apkallu. The Greeks called them the Titans. The Native Americans called them the Sky People. The Maya spoke of bearded travelers who came from the sea, bringing mathematics and astronomy. Different names. Same story. Even more chilling. The stars these monuments align to are always the same. Orion, Sirius, Draco, the Pleiades. These were not random choices. They were coordinates, markers, a celestial map understood globally. But this truth threatens the modern narrative. If a global civilization existed before the Ice Age, then humanity is far older than we're taught. Civilization did not begin 5,000 years ago. It began before the flood in a world destroyed by cataclysm and reborn in fragments. Archaeology, however, avoids this conclusion. Researchers who propose global prehistory face ridicule, censorship, and lost careers. Universities quietly silence topics that contradict the accepted timeline. Museums hide anomalies in storage rooms, artifacts that don't fit into the official story. Why? Because rewriting history requires admitting that we were wrong. Spectacularly wrong. But the stone monuments scattered across the world do not lie. They stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten age, built with knowledge we still struggle to match. Which raises a terrifying question. If there was once a worldwide civilization capable of mapping Earth, studying the stars, and building indestructible monuments, what happened to it? The next chapter uncovers a cataclysm that erased this global culture and the survivors who carried its secrets into Egypt, where the pyramids became their final message to the future. Every ancient civilization speaks of a time before memory, an age of greatness suddenly destroyed by water, fire, darkness, or falling stars. These stories appear in Egypt, Sumer, India, Greece, China, the Americas, and countless tribal cultures separated by oceans and millennia. For centuries, scholars dismiss these stories as myths. But myths that appear everywhere are not myths. They are memories. To understand who built the pyramids, we must understand what destroyed the world that came before them. Around 12,800 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, Earth experienced one of the most violent natural disasters in human history. Temperatures spiked. Mega glaciers melted in a geological instant. Sea level surged more than 400 feet. Entire continents' coastlines vanished overnight. The event is now known as the Younger Dryas Cataclysm, and it changed everything. Modern research points to a terrifying possibility. Earth was struck by fragments of a massive comet. These impacts ignited wildfires on a global scale, sending ash into the atmosphere and plunging Earth back into near-glacial conditions. Rivers shifted, continents drowned, species vanished, and with them, an advanced human civilization, global, interconnected, technologically sophisticated, was nearly wiped out. Imagine this world for a moment. Cities built along ancient coastlines now lie miles beneath the ocean. Vast knowledge systems disappeared as libraries, temples, and monuments drowned. Survivors scattered across the planet, reduced from engineers and astronomers to refugees struggling to rebuild. Their advanced tools rusted, their books burned, their languages fractured. But memory survived in stories, symbols, and stone. The survivors who reached what we now call Egypt did not arrive empty-handed. They carried fragments of a lost science, astronomy, geometry, sacred mathematics, and star maps older than human history. They were the remnants of a world that fell, determined to preserve their wisdom before it faded forever. This explains why Egypt's civilization began fully formed. This explains why the earliest monuments are the most advanced. This explains why pyramids around the world share the same code. They were built by survivors of the same catastrophe, following the same ancient instructions. In Egypt, these survivors became known as the Shemsahor, the followers of Horus, legendary being said to have ruled long before the first pharaoh. Their knowledge shaped the early dynasties, but their origins were older than recorded time. They were the keepers of a memory humanity was not meant to lose again. But if they were trying to preserve something, what was it? Look closely at the Great Pyramid. Its placement on Earth corresponds to the center of the world's landmass. Its proportions encode the shape of the planet, the distance to the sun, and the geometry of time itself. Its chambers align with Orion, the constellation representing the celestial home of the ancient gods, or perhaps a memory of a star system important to the lost civilization. The pyramid was not a tomb. It was a message, a lighthouse built for the future, a monument constructed to survive another catastrophe, because stone endures when memory fades. But there's a darker side to the story. As Egypt rose from the ashes, later rulers took credit for monuments they did not build. Records were rewritten. Dynasties erased the legacy of those who came before. Knowledge became power, and power demanded control. The origins of the pyramids, too ancient, too threatening, too different from the official story, were pushed into myth. For thousands of years, the world forgot the truth. But the cataclysm left evidence everywhere. Black layers of burned earth spanning continents. Melted rock formations found only under extreme heat. Impact craters hidden beneath ice sheets. Massive extinctions matching the timeline. Sudden sea level rise swallowing ancient coastlines. And in the middle of this destruction, humanity survived. Those who fled carried their knowledge to Egypt, Peru, Turkey, China, North America, planting seeds that later civilizations mistook for origin myths. But the pyramids of Giza stand apart. They are too perfect, too deliberate, too aligned with celestial markers that existed thousands of years before the pharaohs. They were constructed by people who lived before the flood to warn those who would live after it. If this is true, and evidence increasingly supports it, then the pyramids are the last relics of a forgotten high civilization. They hold the blueprint of a world that fell and the warning of a world that will fall again. Because cataclysms are not rare. They are cyclical. And the builders of the pyramids understood these cycles far better than we do today. As we move to the next chapter, we will uncover the most unsettling revelation yet. The pyramids were not only built with lost knowledge, they were built for a specific purpose. A purpose modern historians still refuse to acknowledge. For centuries, the Great Pyramid has been labeled a tomb, despite containing no mummy, no inscriptions, no funerary items, and none of the artistic decorations found in every other Egyptian burial structure. It is silent, mathematical, mechanical, a structure of precision, not ritual, a monument of engineering, not death. So if it wasn't a tomb, what was it? To answer this, we must step inside, not physically but mentally, into the geometry, the materials, the resonance, and the astronomical alignment that compose the pyramid's hidden machinery. The Great Pyramid is built with two stones: limestone, which acts as an insulator; granite, which contains quartz and reacts to vibration and electricity. This combination is not random. When quartz is compressed, it produces an electric charge. This is known as a piezoelectric effect, a principle used today in clocks, sensors, and modern electrical systems. But the Egyptians supposedly had no electricity. So why did the builders create a massive granite chamber with perfect acoustic properties? Because the pyramid was designed to resonate. Inside the king's chamber, the granite beams vibrate at specific frequencies. Modern experiments show that sound waves amplify within the chamber, bouncing in harmonic patterns as if the room was tuned like a musical instrument. Even the sarcophagus, cut from a single block of granite, vibrates at a frequency that matches the chamber itself. This is not coincidence. This is engineering. The entire pyramid behaves like a gigantic resonant cavity, a structure capable of channeling, amplifying, and directing energy. When sound, pressure, or even Earth's natural vibrations enter the chamber, they multiply. The granite converts these vibrations into electrical potential. The limestone casing, once polished until it shined like white gold, acted as an insulating shell, preventing energy from dissipating. But if the pyramid was generating energy, what was powering it? Look to the subterranean chamber, a rough, unfinished pit carved deep into the bedrock, unlike any other Egyptian structure. It appears raw, but its purpose becomes clear when viewed through the lens of engineering. Some researchers propose it acted as a hydraulic chamber, a system where water flowing beneath the pyramid created pressure waves. The Nile once ran much closer to Giza than today. If water entered tunnels beneath the pyramid, rising and falling with seasonal floods, it could have produced a constant source of vibration. Vibration enters the granite. Granite amplifies vibration. Quartz converts vibration into electricity. The limestone casing traps and directs the energy. A silent, ancient machine, hidden in plain sight. But the most mysterious part is not the mechanism. It is the alignment. The Great Pyramid is placed at the exact center of Earth's landmass, aligned perfectly north with only 3/60th of a degree error, better than modern compasses can achieve. Its height multiplied by 43,200 equals the polar radius of Earth. Its base perimeter divided by its height approximates 2 pi, the circle constant. These are not measurements a tomb builder accidentally discovers. These are measurements taken from a global survey, one performed by a civilization with advanced geodesy. Why encode Earth's dimensions in stone? Why build a pyramid that functions like an energy resonator? Why orient it to a sky thousands of years older than Egypt? Unless the pyramid was part of a larger system, a system inherited from a lost age. Consider this. Energy does not always mean electricity. Energy can be mechanical, acoustic, electromagnetic, or even spiritual, depending on how it is understood. The builders may have used the pyramid for purposes we barely comprehend. Stabilizing Earth after the cataclysm, preserving astronomical knowledge, creating resonance fields for healing, meditation, or consciousness, protecting information within stone geometry, marking Earth's energy lines or ley lines, serving as a beacon for the future after another collapse. Every chamber, angle, and passage inside the pyramid appears intentional, as if the builders were encoding instructions, not for people of their time, but for us. And this is where the conspiracy deepens. In the 20th century, electrical engineers investigating the pyramid detected anomalous electromagnetic fields around the apex and inside the king's chamber. These findings were dismissed by archaeology, not because they were false, but because they were inconvenient. The truth challenges a narrative that ancient people were primitive. The truth suggests the pyramid was built by a culture with a technological understanding we are only beginning to rediscover. A tomb does not need alignment to Orion. A tomb does not need harmonic chambers. A tomb does not need quartz-rich granite tuned to resonance. A tomb does not need to mimic Earth's geometry. A machine does. The pyramid was a device, an instrument, constructed with purpose. We may not yet fully understand that purpose, but the clues left behind indicate it was far more than a monument of stone. In the next chapter, we will uncover forbidden evidence, The discoveries hidden, silenced, or ignored that prove modern institutions know much more about the pyramid's true nature than they allow the world to see. If the pyramids were machines, if they originated from a lost civilization, and if their builders possessed knowledge far beyond what Bronze Age cultures were capable of, then the next question is unavoidable. Where is the evidence? And if such evidence exists, why is it hidden? The truth is this: the evidence does exist, but it does not fit the official story. And anything that contradicts the accepted timeline of history becomes a threat, one that institutions suppress, bury, or quietly ignore. Let us begin with the most controversial chamber of all, the mysterious void above the king's chamber. In recent years, scientists use cosmic ray scanning technology to probe the Great Pyramid's interior. To their shock, they discovered a massive hidden void, larger than an airplane, sitting directly above the Grand Gallery. This void had never been seen, touched, or mapped before, and its existence changes everything. Archaeologists claimed it must be a relieving chamber, even though the pyramid already has 5 relieving chambers above the king's chamber. They insist it has no meaning, but scientists, not archaeologists, describe it differently: a symmetrical cavity, perfectly aligned, purposefully constructed, massive in scale, completely inaccessible. Why build a chamber so large and then hide it utterly, unless it was part of a mechanism, one that did not require human access? This is the kind of evidence that threatens the tomb narrative. So what happened? The discovery was quietly minimized. Studies were restricted. Exploration was prohibited. A technological anomaly was buried under mountains of academic denial. But that void is just the beginning. The tool marks that should not exist. Inside the pyramid and temples like Abu Sur and Saqqara, we find granite surfaces polished like mirrors, something even modern diamond tools struggle to produce. But here's the impossible part. Microscopic inspections reveal circular tool marks consistent with high-speed drilling, marks that cannot be made with copper tools. Granite is 7 to 10 on the hardness scale. Copper is 3/10. Copper cannot cut granite. It bends. Yet inside Egypt we find drilled granite cores, perfect cylindrical hollows, precision bored holes in basalt, cut marks as if made by modern machining tools. Archaeologists' explanation? Sand and elbow grease. This is not science. It is desperation. The unfinished obelisk, proof of lost technology. In Aswan lies the largest obelisk ever attempted, a 1,200-ton giant carved directly into bedrock. But the tool marks reveal something shocking. The stone was being cut out, not chipped. The marks resemble rotary grinding, something impossible with ancient Egyptian tools. This single structure disproves the official tool narrative. Instead of rewriting textbooks, institutions simply pretend the evidence is inconclusive. Forbidden discoveries in the Sphinx enclosure. Geologists, not Egyptologists, discovered deep vertical erosion marks along the Sphinx enclosure walls. These patterns come from heavy rainfall, not wind or sand. But the region has not seen heavy rains since at least 10,000 BC. This means the Sphinx is older than Egypt itself, older than the pyramids, older than civilization as we know it. When the findings were presented, Egyptology responded not with evidence, but with anger. They refused to allow further geological testing. They ridiculed the researchers. They attacked their credibility. Why? Because accepting the geology means accepting a forgotten civilization, artifacts that don't fit history. Across museums and private vaults are objects that defy the abilities of ancient cultures. Spherical stone bearings, precision-cut crystal lenses, perfect symmetry pottery, mechanical-looking fragments, odd alloy mixtures with no known ancient furnace capable of producing them. These artifacts appear, disappear, and reappear in different institutions, sometimes displayed briefly, then quietly removed when scholars begin asking the wrong questions. The great silence around subterranean chambers. Under the Giza Plateau lies a vast network of shafts, chambers, and tunnels stretching for miles. Many are flooded, sealed, or restricted. Documents from the 1800s describe cavern systems large enough to house thousands. Yet, modern access is forbidden. Why hide empty tunnels? Unless they are not empty, unless they contain evidence that rewrites human history. Rumors persist of objects removed in secrecy, stone boxes with electromagnetic anomalies, sealed containers that hummed, inscriptions older than known writing systems. None of this appears in official archaeology. None of it can be discussed publicly because it undermines the Pharaoh-centric narrative. Why institutions hide the truth? The cover-up is not a conspiracy of individuals. It is a system built on academic funding, controlled narratives, institutional pride, museum tourism, national identity, political influence. If the pyramids predate known civilizations, if advanced technology existed before the Ice Age, if Egypt inherited knowledge instead of creating it, then everything we teach about human history collapses. Entire careers would crumble. Museums would rewrite exhibits. Textbooks would lose authority. National identities built around dynasties would face uncomfortable questions. So instead, institutions bury the anomalies, not because the truth is out of reach, but because the truth is dangerous. The evidence is everywhere, except in the official story. Every clue points to the same conclusion. A technologically advanced civilization lived before the cataclysm. They mapped the earth. They built aligned monuments. They understood frequencies, resonance, and stone technology. They encoded their knowledge into geometric structures that survived the flood. The Great Pyramid was not a tomb. It was a message, a machine, a legacy of a forgotten world. And in the next chapter, we reveal the greatest secret of all, what the builders were trying to warn us about.